The main effect for the divination is the intention and the real connection with the cards. So when you ask for a question, when you connect really with the cards, you can channel maybe some energies that allows you to find the answer you're looking for.
Tarot actually provides that kind of sense of direction. It kind of showcases to us that we, at the end of the day, have the key for our own transformation. Tarot is not just for future predictions or like kind of telling a fixed future. It's more so for self-discovery to figure out where you can grow, how you can heal, what are those points where you need to emphasize and work on. Tarot was used as a tool to get more insights into how we could work together and use it.
So the history of tarot is fascinating. It started in 15th century Italy, in the Renaissance times, when these wealthy families actually commissioned these cards to be hand embossed and hand painted. And it was played as a card game. It was called tarocchi. And it was similar to bridge that time. Then we jump to France, to late 18th century. And there was a French Protestant pastor called Antoine Cour de Gébelin. He actually said something which caused a revolution in tarot. He said, and we don't know how much evidence there is for this, but he said that tarot contains secret wisdom, secret Egyptian wisdom, which was lost when the Library of Alexandria burned down. So Jabelin's ideas got people excited. Occultists all over France, all over England, started associating tarot with Kabbalah, with astrology, with alchemy. They started developing concepts and elaborate systems around these cards. And then in 1909, Arthur Waite and Pamela Colman Smith developed the Rider-Waite Smith deck. And that is the deck that's used even today. I have one of those decks. In fact, I should have carried mine here. And this is the first time that the illustrations actually happened. Before this, it was a simple numerical arrangement for the minor arcana. But with these illustrations and these 78 cards, they could now be used by beginners, by other people, not just occultists. So welcome to Wellness Curated. This is your host, Anshu Bahanda. And as we delve further and further into mystical practices, today we're going to talk to you about tarot that nurtures the mind and the spirit and the body, of course, in modern times. And I would love to welcome two guests today. I have Alice Mastroleo. She's a tarot card reader and teaches cartomancy, which is a form of fortune telling. And her quest has actually been to uncover ancient symbols and ancient knowledge, and that's got her involved in many esoteric traditions. We also have with us Manya Upadhyay, who's a holistic coach. She's a holistic healer, a life coach, a mystic, an author, and she's founded something called Kindverse, which is like a sanctuary of love and kindness. Welcome to this chat, Alice and Manya, and thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, I'm going to ask you, Alice, I'll start with you. Tell me, how did tarot develop? I mean, firstly, what is tarot and how did it develop into being something that can be used as a divination tool? Because it was just a card game, right?
Yes, that's true. It's actually a card deck, like those we use to play games, like in modern time. But the tarot divides into major arcana and minor arcana, which are two separate part of the deck that collides together. The major arcana develops in the way you told, like in Italy. It has been created as a gift to celebrate the wedding between the son and the daughter of the families of Visconti and Sforza in Milan in the second half of the 15th century. And it was not created for divination, of course, and it like it developed itself as a game, but like an encyclopedia of the most important figures of the time, like the priestess, the Pope, or the Hierophant, as we know it, actually, the Empress, the Emperor, or the arts, the muses, the stars, and all these kind of elements. They crossed centuries, like 2 centuries before being used for divination, while the minor arcana was traveling through the Asia, probably thanks to gypsy population. And it developed a history itself. So the two collide in the center of Europe around 1700 plus or minus. And it's funny because every country reclaims like the owning of the deck, because the Asian tells no, the cards have been developed here. The French says the same, or the Kabbalah was put inside by Antoine Cour de Gebelin. So it's a mix and match of cultures that created, I think, in my opinion, the whole work. So when something goes back in times, you always have to separate the legend from the truth. But with the tarot, it's very difficult to do so, because the story of the tarot is very, very old, and all the influences from several population. It's clear because you can also see it in the drawings, or in all the inspiration that created this beautiful divination item.
So, Alice, what I'm trying to understand is, how did it become a divination tool? What caused that change? What made it such that it can be used for introspection? Is it just the intent that we set when we use it?
Human beings always had the intent to divine their future, okay? And the people always used different tools to do so. So I think that using this deck of cards became like natural in order to have a divination effect. Okay, so it we can establish the divination with the cards around 1000, like in 17th century in France, with Cour de Gebelin, with Eteia, with Papoose. So all these philosophers and occultists found out that there can be a connection between the divination and the use of the cards. So I think that besides all the studies that have been made on it, I think that the main effect for the divination is the intention and the real connection with the cards. So when you ask for a question, when you connect really with the cards, you can channel maybe some energies that allows you to find the answer you're looking for.
Okay. And Manya, you work with kind words. right? And one of the tools that you use is tarot. So, why tarot? What did you feel about it that helps in healing and empowerment?
Well, when I personally first experienced tarot, it was like a mirror to my soul. So I realized that it not only highlights my fears, but as well as my potential and all of these different outcomes. And then I started using it for my clients and through, like, in my healing sessions. And I realized that it's actually empowering to create that kind of space for my clients where they can just, open up without judgments. So tarot actually provides that kind of sense of direction. And it kind of showcases to us that we, at the end of the day, have the key for our own transformation. So, like, I emphasize on this point that tarot is not just for future predictions or like kind of telling a fixed future. It's more so for self-discovery to, like, figure out where you can grow, how you can heal, what are those points where you need to, like, emphasize and work on. So I found it to be like a great tool. We also got to, find out more insights about particular clients as I felt their energies. Tarot was used as a tool to get more insights into how we could work together and use it.
Thank you. So, you're right in saying that it's a tool for self discovery, right? But I've also found, and I've used tarot many, many, many times. I have a deck of cards. I've given cards to lots of people because I think it's an amazing, like you said, it's an amazing tool that we can use. But I've also found once in my life, in fact, one of the first few times I used tarot, it was also an incredible tool for predicting the future. So to me, it wasn't just about the self discovery. And it just
Yeah,
depends on what message needs to come through. That's what I felt like.
see, tarot can be useful in predicting possible future outcomes. There are possible timelines, and you can possibly predict that. But then it's not to predict the fixed future. People can always change their current energy and the possible outcome. So yeah, it can be useful in that way. You can get an insight onto what is going to come next. But then again, it's mostly I prefer to use it for something like, as a tool for self growth and discovery because it gives a very, insight into the psyche. So when a client comes to me or we're during a healing session, it's easier for me to look into their psyche, into the subconscious, and what they are afraid to admit or accept, things like that. So yeah, it can definitely be used as a point for like future prediction. But yeah, for me personally, in my healing sessions, it's a great tool for self-discovery and transformation.
So, what I want to ask you both is if you had a new client come to you, right, who has no idea about tarot, how do you explain it to them?
Manya, if you want to begin, then I come second.
If somebody is new to tarot, I would definitely suggest them to get a simple Rider-Waite tarot deck and then, get the meanings of it, familiarize yourself with the meanings. Journaling also helps with self-reflection. So yeah, that would just like a healthy process for them to get into that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
normally when I get to meet people who are totally unaware of what tarot is, it's during events. So people come because of the curiosity around the tarot, but they don't really know what the tarot does. And so I tell them that it's like a mirror. So to imagine a situation in which they feel stuck or they're doubtful about what to do or how to manage it. And I tell them to like think about this situation and then ask me the question that comes from the heart. And I tell them that with the tarot, I can create like a path for them, which is clearer. And I can also offer different points of view besides those that they already have. Because when you're into a situation, you think you already explored of all the outcomes possible, but it's not like that. So the tarot offers you like a mirror, but of the in upside down of that kind of situation. So I tell them that I can help find out what to do, also using instruments that they have and they don't know that they have. So I make them aware about all that they can use in this situation to resolve this block or this trouble that they are facing.
So what you're both saying is it's a mirror into your life at that point.
Yes.
And it shows you your blind spot, which you might be missing, which people around you might be missing. And also it shows you solutions that are there in your energy field.
Yes.
So Alice, talk to me about the various spreads that there are. So when someone comes to you, how do you decide what spread to do to begin with? And then how do you decide what path to follow? Because there's many different spreads that you can do. And there's many strands of information you can pick up on.
Yes, that's true. Well, actually, when people book a reading with me, they already choose which kind of reading they want. So I base my readings upon the reading they choose. I have readings which I created, and I tend not to stick to others people reading just because I always improvise. I have my own scheme, but I also improvise because when you have somebody in front of you, you will never know where the tarot reading will go. And I think that by improvising, I have more space to offer them the best reading I can with the best scheme based on their experience or on their needs. So this is my technique actually.
Okay, thank you. And Manya, I want to ask you about intuition. So, how strong a role does intuition play into it? And if I'm someone with no intuition at all, can I still do tarot readings?
Absolutely. Intuition plays a very vital role when it comes to tarot. But if somebody is just starting out and they don't know about their intuitive abilities or they haven't, sharpened their intuition, they can definitely start working with tarot. It definitely is also a great tool to sharpen your like intuition as well. Definitely be used as something to sharpen it over the time. But yeah, it plays a very vital role. It helps the more you are intuitive, you can easily connect with the energy of the tarot deck and your energy. That it's like a game, it's like a rhythm, and the more you get into it, it gets smoother over the time. So yeah, definitely, even if somebody doesn't is aware of their intuitive abilities, they can still start with it, start to play with it a little, dip their toes in the water. But then, yeah, eventually they'll start feeling that their intuitive abilities are starting to sharpen up, and then they can smoothly function with it.
So, you're saying it's a dance between you and your energy and the querent and their energy, right?
Absolutely. I personally did not even get into the meanings of the cards when I started out. Like tarot was just a gift, but my intuitive abilities were always sharp. So I didn't even take that much time to learn the meanings and all of that. It was so amusing to me because it was just so rhythmic, like involving myself, opening a deck, and there's just getting into the energy, feeling that energy. And now that I do it for other people, the clients, it's sort of very smooth because all I just focus on is the energies and how I feel with the particular card that comes out and just tap into my intuition.
Okay, so the energy, and there is energy between you and the querent, the person who comes to you with the queries. What happens? How does this energy interact with each other? Are there times when you need to balance it? And are there times, how do you work with somebody's energy?
Well, I'm very sensitive to energy, people's energy and everything. So I definitely have my own, process of grounding myself before getting into a session and then post. Because while doing it, you can easily get people's energy. And if I don't have these, process or self care rituals, then I can easily keep these energies within me. For example, I deal with a lot of people with trauma, and then those are some heavy energies, and it kind of completely exhausts me. So I have these self-care rituals like meditation or journaling that helps me to keep my energy grounded and fresh. And then I go into session so that the other person can be free and feel safe, and can just let out all of that they have trapped inside, and we can work together to work on those energies that are maybe creating blocks, or are somewhere trapped in their own body.
Thank you. And Alice, how do you deal with the energy between you and the querent?
Well, it wasn't easy for me at the beginning because I don't want to say I'm an empath, like it's always a good thing. Actually, it's not.
It's
So at the
not, I
beginning,
know.
But
at
Yeah.
the
yeah.
beginning, I really have to deal with other people's stories, which are not always happy, and they don't always end well, you know. So I really had to find out how to protect myself, but still interact with other people's energy. So I actually welcome other people energy, but like with the aim to do the reading. I don't want to sound harsh, but when you end the reading, you don't have anything to do with that person anymore until you see her or him again. So you have to like create boundaries, healthy
Yeah.
boundaries. And I always do something nice for me after closing a very hard reading. So I always tend to create positivity where there's not. And even when I relate myself with other people during a strong reading, I always tend to keep it light. Okay,
Mhm.
so you already have problems. You don't need me to like do a pitiful face, like, oh, I'm so sorry for you. You don't want to hear that. You want like somebody that enhances the good strength, the good positivity. So I choose to bring in the light and not to bring in the darkness.
So now today we have many, many divination modalities, right? Uh,
Yes.
I mean, of course, and there has been astrology and numerology for centuries. What is it that makes tarot unique, and especially as a tool for introspection and self reflection?
Well, I chose tarot because I always loved the hidden meanings behind it. And also the fact that, yes, there are rules, but you have always room for your own interpretation due to your intuition. Okay. So I think that it's like I don't know, a language, an instrument that has something to do with something that you can see actually and you can study, but also it has to a lot to do with something that intercourse between a person and the other. So, as for example, the Empress card
Mhm.
as its own meanings. But if I do a reading to you and you have this card, and if I do a reading to Manya and she has this card too, the meanings
The
will be
same.
not the same. Yes,
Yeah.
of course,
Yeah.
because you have two different stories, two different contexts, maybe in which these cards pop out. So it's like a story written for each one of us. It will never be the same.
Thank you. Manya, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, Alice pretty much covered everything, but it's just that astrology, palmistry, there are so many different tools and they all have their own uniqueness. But tarot, yeah, for me personally as well, it's like a direct, visualization thingy. So it didn't need much of any, like, in-depth study of it. It just needed me to have my intuitive, like, abilities on point and then just understanding how the cards and, like she said, the particular card and how it works in different contexts.
So you think it's the fact, what is it that makes it unique for introspection? That's what I'm trying to get at.
Because it provides a clear and direct message. That's it. Like with astrology and palmistry, all of numerology, there are just so many points, you have to have like a complete chart. I mean, I started with astrology itself. I used to read birth charts. But then when I stumbled upon tarot and I was like, okay, this is it because it was just direct, it was clear cut, and it provided me like this complete clear picture of a human psyche, and I was always very fascinated by it. So first I used it on myself. I used it to completely see it for myself, and then
Mhm.
once I realized that it's actually pretty powerful and it's very helpful, I started doing it for other people.
And Manya, are there any myths or misconceptions about tarot that you want to clarify? Like I've had people say, "Oh gosh, you're doing voodoo," and
Yeah.
I just play around once in a while with my cards. But uh, tell me, what have you
Yeah.
heard?
I mean, yeah, there have been a lot of misconceptions for people who don't have proper knowledge, or who, people who are not aware of all these topics, who are new to all these topics. So I have to face that. People do exactly like you said, voodoo, dark magic, like I hear a lot of stuff. But then, yeah, I feel like it's okay for them to have their views. I mean, if I was in their place, maybe I would think the same thing if I hadn't, experienced it personally. So I get their like misconceptions, but I obviously make it clear to them. And I have had a lot of first time clients. So once I did the reading for them, they actually realized, okay, it has nothing to do with all of this. It's actually a sort of new age tool. I mean, although it's very old, ancient tool, but still, in today's time, it's being used for really, these things like self-discovery and transformation, healing. So yeah, it's not what they assume it to be. It's definitely something very helpful.
Thank you. Um, and I agree with you, ladies, that your in what you'd said earlier, that your intuition does develop as you keep working with the tarot, because I've met some amazing tarot card readers who have said things which, you know, there's no way another human being could know about you. Alice, I want to ask you about wellness. So, in today's world, especially post COVID, wellness has become an integral part, health and wellness, of a lot of people's lives. How can tarot help you with health and wellness?
The wellness side, I think it has anything in common with the divination side of the tarot because it's purely introspection and facing which can be the problems we can have with our dark side. So probably wellness, it's more on the psychological side of the tarot. So who am I? What I'm afraid of, or maybe how can I use my dark side in order to shine and arrive to my targets. So it's very important to me, this side. I always use the wellness side of the tarot because you can reach your targets, but if you don't ask how I am going, at what cost, at what internal cost I am going to reach these targets, I think you're missing a very important part because uh, who I am, I cannot separate it from what I do. So
Mm-hmm.
this kind of approach is like the approach I love the most. And in first place, I started working during COVID because before I was just doing readings to my friends, and they pushed me to work with people I didn't know because they told me I was very good at it. So the COVID period was the one that launched my activity actually. So I cannot separate the psychological questions from the technical or practical questions. So for me, they're both useful and necessary.
So you're saying who I am cannot be separated from what I do. I like that line. I really like that. So because you're saying our purpose and our path in life is there intrinsically in us.
Yes, yes.
And
It's
it's
like,
for us to choose which of the many paths which are there in us is good for us at that point in our lives.
yes, yes.
That's lovely.
That's
Thank
true.
you.
Thank you.
Now, I would love you both to tell me one earth shattering story that you have had where you've done someone's tarot and it's helped them and it's made a difference to their lives, like a huge difference.
Okay, so I've done a lot of these impactful and meaningful sessions now, and all of them have been great. But a few that stand out to me, one was that I did it for a girl who completely, like, she was in her late 40s and she had, she was divorced. She had completely given up on life. She, like, it was a bad situation. And then she lost hope and she was living abroad. And then she came back to India and she just needed that encouragement, that empowerment. And she just stumbled upon my website and she booked a session. I gave her the time and then we did the session. I picked out the cards and the tar card came out. And usually, when people see that tar card, it's like, oh my God, it's like a big upheaval. But then for me, it's like it's a big upheaval for the good, for the positive, like all the things that are no longer, that do not align with your path anymore, they kind of get like they kind of shed away. And what remains is for a chance for you to build something on a stable ground. So, she restarted building her life. And then after 6 months, she actually told me, like 6 months before when we did the reading, I told her that I see you like building a business and all of that. And she was like, no, I don't see that. I'm working this job and I've never thought about that. And 6 months later, she sent me this big text and she was like, oh my God, you were right. And I started that and it just happened. And she kind of rebuilt her life. And I thought that was really, after 6 months, getting that sort of, message, and she was very thankful of how her entire life changed by taking that one decision, which she thought she never would take that step, but she did. And just like that, I also did a session where a man was wrongfully accused of rape, and the trial sessions and everything were going on. So, like, his sister kind of asked me to do the reading, and we got to know a lot of things about the person who kind of accused, a lot of details that otherwise, wouldn't have never came out. And those were definitely helpful, and he was let out. So yeah, some very,
Wow.
impactful but difficult, but really nice sessions.
Thank you. Thank you. Alice, what about you?
Well, one of my favorite stories is the one of this girl who contacted me 2 years ago, and we started doing a journey with cards because we hear now twice a year actually, and on the first contact, on the first reading, she had a job which was quite boring for her, easy but boring. She had this relationship with this person who was coming back and forth out and in her life, and she just lost her father. It was not so critical, but actually there were some unsatisfying points in her life. And right now she completely managed to overcome her father's death. She cut bridges with that relationship and another one who was quite similar. She started her own path in the flower design career, and she's super, super happy. She's having lots of requests. So I'm so happy to hear from her, because on the first reading, all the cards were reversed. I remember this.
Wow.
There were like a couple of cards were straight. And on the last reading we had before summer, all the cards was straight, and she was super happy. She was guessing to how to invest more money in this career, because she probably needed a second person to manage it. So I was super happy for her. And even, if it wasn't so tragic, there's no need to have tragic lives in order to ask for help or ask for a guide. So probably you're just unsatisfied and you want to change for the better.
Very nice. So I have a fascinating tarot story as well. Years ago, about 33 years ago, I had gone to this tarot card reader, and he had a job. He used to just do this, like Manya was saying, for friends and family, and you were saying, Alice. And um, and he's put out my spread. And at that point, I just finished studying. I was very focused on my career. And he kept saying, in 2 months, you're going to meet someone. And in every spread he did and everything he did, he kept saying, so it keeps coming back to this person. And I was laughing. He kept saying to me, it's so strong. I think you're going to marry this person. And I walked out of there laughing, saying, he doesn't know what he's saying. And he said to me, you're not taking me seriously. Come to me with a cake if you're right, if I'm right. And we left, and it was a big joke. And I walked out laughing. And 2 months later, I did go back to him with a cake. And I've been married to that person now for 32 years.
That's
Wow.
Yeah. So that's my tarot story. And that's why it's very dear to me. So thank you, Alice and Manya, for your insightful comments, for telling us what a strong tool it is for introspection, for looking within us, for empowerment, for changing the paths of our lives when we need to. Thank you. I'm really grateful to both of you.
Thank you so much.
It's been really, really nice to talk to you girls. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for making the time. And to our listeners, thank you for being here with us today. I hope we've helped you in some little way when we've talked about this tool for self-reflection, and not to treat it with suspicion, not to treat it with worry, and just go with the flow and let it help you with your flow of life. Let it help you lead your best life and empower you. Thank you very much. Till next time.
So the guru deliberately gives them a wrong sutra, a wrong shloka. So they memorize it. So then they end up with weird hair and weird teeth. So then he says, look, if you memorize it correctly, all this disappears.